Today's story is as shocking as it is complex. It took nearly 3 decades to uncover the truth behind a crime that many believed would remain buried forever. In 1992, a 21-year-old nun was found dead under mysterious circumstances. For years, the case was dismissed, evidence was tampered with, and those in power tried to silence the truth. But in December 2020, after 28 years of lies, cover-ups, and relentless investigation, justice was finally served. What really happened to Sister Abhaya? Who was responsible for her brutal murder? And why did it take so long to expose them? If you're ready to uncover the dark secrets behind this case, hit that like button, subscribe to Crime Chronicles, and let me know in the comments what you think about this shocking story. Justice may have been delayed, but it was never denied. The story begins in the quiet town of Kottayam, Kerala, in 1992. Like many other Christian areas in Kerala, Kottayam was a peaceful place with churches and convents scattered throughout the region. These places of worship were an integral part of the lives of the local residents. One of the well-known convents in the area was the St. Joseph's Convent. It had a hostel where many young women came to study and live. Among them was 21-year-old Sister Abhaya, a devoted young woman who had come to the convent to serve God and help others. Sister Abhaya was studying at a pre-degree college and, like any student, she had exams approaching. Determined to prepare well, she decided to wake up early one morning to study. She set her alarm, went to bed, and woke up around 4 a.m. After greeting a few of her friends in the convent, she sat down to begin her studies. After some time, she felt the need to take a short break. She left her books and went to the kitchen, possibly to drink some water or splash her face with cold water to stay awake. The next morning, when the other nuns woke up, they noticed something unusual. Sister Abhaya was nowhere to be found. This seemed suspicious to them. When they went to the kitchen, they found an open water bottle, spilled water on the floor, and one of Sister Abhaya's slippers. But where was Sister Abhaya? No one knew. The search became more urgent, and soon they found Sister Abhaya's other slipper near the convent's well. When one of the nuns peered into the well, she was horrified to see Sister Abhaya's lifeless body. The fire department arrived, the police were called, and eventually, Sister Abhaya's body was pulled out of the well. The nuns and hostel residents were in complete shock. Just the night before, they had shared dinner, laughed, made plans for the future, and even been annoyed by her early morning alarm. Now, their friend was being carried out lifeless from the well. The local police officer, V.V. Augustine, arrived at the scene. After the body was recovered, he filed a report, called a photographer to document the scene and the body, and then sent the body for an autopsy. During the autopsy, doctors noted cuts and bruises, found a head injury, and listed the cause of death as drowning. Despite the head injury, the cause of death was marked as suicide with the possibility of murder. However, many people found this explanation hard to believe. Why would Sister Abhaya set an alarm if she intended to take her own life? The fridge door was left open, the bottle cap was off, water was spilled, and her slipper was left on the floor. Everything seemed too rushed. The story didn't add up. Many believed this was not a suicide but a murder. They also felt that someone was trying to cover up the truth, especially since the incident occurred inside a convent. Sister Abhaya's death took place in a convent where hundreds of girls came to study, learn about religion, and live. Such a tragic event happening in such a place was highly unusual. This incident, along with the suspected cover-up, deeply unsettled the community. An activist named Joy Pilamparambal formed a committee to seek justice. On April 16th, the case was handed over to the crime branch. After a few months of investigation, the crime branch released its report. The case was taken out of the local police's hands and given to the crime branch, which spent months investigating. In the end, they concluded that Sister Abhaya's death was a suicide. By then, Sister Abhaya had already been buried, and her clothes were destroyed, leaving very little medical evidence. However, the case had become a hot topic of discussion in Kerala. The media was full of stories, and people across the state were coming up with their own theories about what had really happened. The nuns were unhappy with how things were going. There was pressure from the media, activists, and society itself. Naturally, the case was passed to a higher authority. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, took over the case, and a fresh investigation began. The CBI started with a new approach, looking for fresh clues and re-interviewing old witnesses. Everything seemed to be moving smoothly, but then something very strange and shocking happened. A CBI officer, Verghese P. Thomas, held a press conference in 1994 and revealed something surprising. He said that he had been under pressure to declare the case a suicide. Because of this, he chose to leave his job almost 9 years before he was supposed to retire. You can imagine the chaos that followed his statement. The case became a big news story again. People couldn't understand why it was getting so confusing. Where was this pressure coming from? Why was the case so difficult to solve? The CBI team continued to investigate for quite some time, even though they didn't have much medical evidence. Later, they conducted several dummy tests. They made a doll the same size and weight as Sister Abhaya and threw it into the well in different ways. They carefully observed where the doll got injured and compared those injuries to the ones found on Sister Abhaya. However, even after these tests, no clear answers emerged. In 1996, 3 years after the investigation started, a report was submitted. It stated, "We believe this should be treated as a murder case. We tried everything possible to find out who might be responsible for this tragic event. But despite all our efforts, we couldn't get any solid results." 4 years after the incident, despite the efforts of the local police, the crime branch, and now the CBI, we still didn't know what really happened to Sister Abhaya. The earlier report was rejected, and a new CBI team was assigned. This new team conducted another investigation, and by 1999, 3 years later, they concluded that Sister Abhaya's death seemed like a murder. The main reason for this conclusion was the medical findings. This time, not just one doctor but a group of 3 doctors examined the body. They found several injuries that had not been mentioned in the first postmortem report. These injuries had been missed earlier. Let's go back to the day of the incident. Many nuns were at the convent and noticed additional injuries on Sister Abhaya's body. V.V. Augustine, the officer mentioned earlier, had even called a photographer to the scene. The photographer closely examined Sister Abhaya's body and took pictures that showed extra marks of injuries not mentioned in the earlier report or postmortem. When her body was taken out, many nuns were nearby and also saw these injuries. They noted several marks that hadn't been included in the original postmortem report. After 7 years of investigation, it became clear that Sister Abhaya did not take her own life. It looked more like a murder. But who did it? The answer will surprise you even more. The CBI admitted, "We know it's a murder, but we still don't know who the killer is." Once again, the court refused to accept this report. Another team was formed, and in 2005, a new investigation was conducted. Again, it was stated that the killers could not be identified, and once more, the court did not accept this report. The activists, part of the action committee, were now angry. Many rumors and conspiracy theories started popping up. Some media reports suggested that the first investigation was poorly handled. They claimed that Sister Abhaya was buried too quickly, her clothes were burned, and even her diary was destroyed. They felt the postmortem was incomplete and suspected that powerful people were trying to cover this up. Various theories spread quickly across Kerala. How could such a chaotic scene be part of the case? Why did the evidence disappear? Then, a new team began investigating again, and in 2007, a shocking revelation came to light. By now, the case had been under investigation for 15 years. There were many witnesses, but some had turned against the case, and others had even died. Many suspects had been questioned, but no solid proof was found against anyone. Then, out of nowhere, a witness stepped forward, offering a key clue to the case. But who was this witness? The witness was none other than a thief named Adakarapan Raju. In 1992, he had been committing thefts around the area. He would steal items from different places, sell them, and use the money to feed himself and his family. On March 27th, Adakarapan Raju went to St. Joseph's Convent with the plan to steal copper rods and wires meant for lightning protection. He arrived in the dark of night to carry out his theft, But what he saw there was so unusual that it stayed in his mind for years. He noticed someone sneaking onto the campus in the dark. The presence of that person was very strange. He saw a priest there, Father Thomas Codower. This raised a question. What was a priest doing in the girls' hostel at such a late hour? Adakarapan Raju claimed he also saw Father Jose Puthrikale and Sister Sefi. This is where things get really creepy. As mentioned earlier, Raju had a simple way of working. He would steal items from different places and sell them to a scrap dealer. That night, when he witnessed the strange incident, he felt helpless. How could he speak up when he was there to commit a crime? The next day, he read about Sister Abhaya and saw the police's comments about her case. That's when he began to feel that something was truly wrong. He had gone to steal, and if he told anyone about that night, he would have to admit to his own crime. Adakarapan Raju did something surprising. He went to the police and told them what he saw that night. Imagine what happened next. When they heard his story, the police listened to his account and then arrested him, accusing him of the murder. They created a simple theory. Adakarapan Raju entered the convent that night to steal, and when he encountered Sister Abhaya, she screamed, he panicked, killed her, and threw her body into the well before escaping. Simple. Adakarapan Raju was held for 58 days, during which he reportedly faced different kinds of torture. He said he was pressured to take the blame for the murder. He claimed he was offered bribes, money, a job, help for his children's schooling, and even a house, if he confessed to the crime. His scrap dealer, Shamir, was also said to be tortured and pushed to blame Raju for everything. However, both Adakarapan Raju and Shamir refused to back down. When Raju wouldn't give in to the lure of money, they threatened him with several false charges. But what made him stand firm against this corrupt system? It was his honesty. From this point, the case takes a new turn. The CBI now had two main suspects, Father Thomas Codower and Father Jose Puthrikale. In fact, a neighbor who lived near the convent claimed he had seen Father Thomas Codower's scooter parked there on the night of March 26. This neighbor went to a nearby shop for tea, and when he returned around midnight, he noticed the scooter outside the convent. At the time, he didn't think much of it. However, later he changed his story, saying, "I said that under pressure." He was one of many witnesses who turned against the case. But hold on. When Adakarapan Raju told the police about this, they already knew there were some suspects. Why didn't they investigate this further? Why didn't they look into Raju's account even a little? Or was someone telling them to set up Raju? Raju was being offered money. Who had enough money to back that? And the biggest question was, if Raju was telling the truth, what was Father Codower doing at the convent that night? In 2008, based on Raju's statement, the CBI named Father Thomas Codower, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Puthrikale as the main suspects in this murder case. After this, the defense lawyer for the accused tried to undermine witness Raju by painting him as a professional criminal in court. He brought up about 10 criminal cases against Raju, most of which had him as the accused. Raju did not deny his criminal past, which turned the lawyer's argument against him. Even though he admitted to his previous crimes, Raju stood firm in his testimony, determined to seek justice for Sister Abhaya's murder. Because of his statement, Father Thomas Codower, Sister Sefi, and Father Jose Puthrikale were all sent to Bangalore for narcoanalysis tests. The doctor in charge of the tests, Dr. Mohanlal, recorded the results on 3 CDs, which were then sent to the Kerala Judiciary Court and the Kerala High Court. However, it was later found that the CDs containing the narcotest results had been tampered with. Dr. Mohanlal was called to explain this issue, but he had been suspended some time earlier, leaving the narcotest reports incomplete. In 2020, after 28 years of investigation, the Kerala High Court sentenced Father Thomas Codower and Sister Sefi to life in prison based on the narco-test results and Adakarapan Raju's testimony. The court also fined both of them 5 lakh rupees. Thus, thanks to a thief, one of India's longest-running murder mysteries was finally solved. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments.